X-Men Apocalypse. That's right, we're finally here. Man, people had so much goodwill going into X-Men Apocalypse. Because Days of Future Past was one of the best X-Men movies. And it kind of came out, critics really hated it. But there were a lot of general audience members who were like just still excited. They went into the movie and then we were all disappointed by X-Men Apocalypse. I was not an X-Men fan at the time, but I definitely could feel the disappointment at the time from people. That's how big of a disappointment this movie was. And I think, people knew Dark Phoenix was going to be bad. People knew New Mutants were going to be bad. The rest of the X Men franchise at this point just kind of died here. It ended over with New Mutants and Dark Phoenix, but it really died here with interest from people. And I think it's just because, like, at this, you gotta think about at this point. In 2016, we got Captain America: Civil War, and Marvel was doing some cool, bold things. Like next year, after this, they did Thor Ragnarok and then things like that. And the year right after, we got Black Panther and Infinity War. Marvel's doing cool, bold things, and X Men still being old school X Men. And I think the problem with this movie is it's not even that it's so much an awful movie, because I don't think it is an awful movie. There's a lot of good scenes and good character moments here and good performances, right? And honestly, with the nice part about all these X-Men movies at this point, especially these later ones, is there's so many characters that you like that even if you're not enjoying the movie the most, that if you're just a big X-Men fan, you can still get enjoyment with some of those characters. So I think all these movies are pretty watchable at this point. I think the only ones that kind of remain the 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 kind of view of like, I'm not really gonna watch these again, are kind of like probably Dark Phoenix and probably West End. I think what hurts this movie the most is just that it is all the X Men stuff we've seen before without anything new to it, and it kind of got hurt by like, all right, we gotta see Magneto try to live a normal life, and that just feels really generic and played out at this point. We gotta see stuff like that, and also it just felt like at this point, why are you still embarrassed by the source material? Like Mystique is not in her costume. Now I believe that's because Jennifer Lawrence did not want to wear the fucking makeup, right? But in the movie, it's like it just felt like, okay, you're embarrassed by Mystique, you're embarrassed by this, and it just at this point it felt like they should have been embracing more of the comic book stuff, and they didn't really do that, and so I think it made this movie just feel kind of off at the time. But I think what really hurts this movie is Apocalypse is so fucking generic. And Apocalypse is a big X Men villain that they wasted. He doesn't look very intimidating. Oscar Isaac is a good actor, but they wasted him in this role and should have done a lot more with him. It just was awful. And then there's a lot of like, there's also just too much going on in this movie. Like we got Magneto and his fucking family, and this going on and this going on. It's like, okay, and then you got the plot line with Quicksilver that doesn't even get resolved in this movie. It gets resolved later on, but that was just fucking stupid. And there's things like that in this movie that just get really, really hurt and messed up, and I don't know. This movie is just not great. It's kind of like it is X-Men 3 levels of, hey, this movie's a gigantic fucking mess. But I think what's worse about this movie in particular is that at least with X-Men 3, it was the early days of superhero movies. There were still kind of mistakes we were learning. Here it's just like nobody's learning from mistakes, and we should have learned. And that's the real problem with this movie. X-Men movies should not be like this anymore, but yet, even though superhero movies have evolved, they've changed, we were still going back to this shit. And it just does not feel right.